Want to avoid deathly crashes and network destroying deadlocks? Well, you're in the right place for a signal and junction tutorial. Hello there and welcome. Now I do recommend that you look at the previous videos in this series, and there's a link to the playlist in the description, but for those of you who haven't seen them, let's do a very quick fundamentals about the basics and then move on to the junctions and stuff. So in OpenTTD our trains go along tracks, and our tracks get divided up into different sections which we call blocks, and a train will only enter a block if that block is free. So if we get two trains, send one going and then send the other one going, the second one won't come out the depot because the train is currently using this piece of track, this block of track. Now, if we use some signals, and if we look at the signal selection, these are the basic ones, but in the settings you can change it to show the advanced ones if you want to, but path signals will be fine. You can place signals along the line and that will divide the section of track into multiple different blocks. Okay, so if we undo this one now and we just stop this train here, the second train will not enter this block because the signal is preventing it on doing it. So that's the very fundamentals. We divide track up into blocks using signals. Trains move into blocks when they're available. Now there is a small caveat to that, and that is for path signals, because if you've got a block of track, let's just say you've got a junction that looks a bit ridiculous, maybe something like this, and you put your signal on the front of that there. A train entering that block will still enter that block if the block is occupied, as long as the particular path that it needs is not occupied, and that's because of the path signals, and that's the joy of path signals. Okay, now let's move on to the main part. Now the most basic sort of railway line is where you've got one train going along one track, and then when it gets to the end it turns around and comes back again. But you don't need signals for that, so the next stage when you advance up is this sort of dual line here, where you have trains going down the track in one direction, and then when they finish they come back and go down the track in the other direction using one-way path signals. So this is the sort of one that we're going to start with. Now of course, if you've just got trains going backwards and forwards between two different destinations, you don't need any junctions. So I'll just quickly add another one in. So we've got a new line and we're going to connect these two stations together. Keep it simple for now, and that means we need a junction here. Now the most simplest way to do it would be just to add the track in the direction the train needs to go. So coming from the new line and then going up north, we need a piece of track to connect that up, and then coming from the north and then going across the new line, we need a piece of track just here to connect that up too. That is technically a junction and it will mostly work, but we're breaking one of the rules here, and that is, if you can avoid it, do not cross the tracks. So we can see here where my mouse is and the track's flashing, we've got some track crossing over. So we need to uncross that track. How do we uncross track? Well, you either need to make a train go up or down over the other track, so either a bridge or a tunnel. My personal preference is tunnels because I don't like upgrading bridges, and we'll do that now. So I'm just going to stop the trains from coming into this area by removing a couple of pieces of track. That allows us to just get a little bit of space to work on this section of line. We'll remove these bits here that we put in, and we'll look at a way to do this. Now the way that I'm going to do this is by lowering part of this main line to allow for a piece of track to come across and connect up without going over the main line. And I'm just going to lower this bit here, and I'm going to lower that bit there. Okay, then I can build a tunnel between those lowered points, connect up the rest of the track, and we've got this bit that crosses over the main line without the tracks actually crossing. And then we just need to connect up the other piece of track. So we can do that just with a larger diagonal like this. Okay, well that's the junction pretty much done, so we can add those two bits of track back in and let the trains come across. So the existing trains can continue along the way. We don't need that bit of track. We do need to add some signals in though, and that's where we come up to the next rule. Okay, the way that I do my signals for junctions is one very simple and easy way, and that is you need signals before the merges. Okay, so here in this junction there's actually only one merge, and that is right here. This is where these two pieces of track come together. This isn't a merge, okay, this is a split. Okay, and we'll get to that in a second. So on the merge we need a signal going in and a signal going in. and we don't need a signal going out. We can get rid of that. So we've got 2 signals going into this square where the 2 pieces of track merge together. That's the first bit for the signals. The second bit for the signals is that split. So you need a signal before a split as well. So we put a signal in here, and that signal allows trains to be able to path one way or the other. And putting them before the split just helps with the throughput, and putting them before the merge too. Now that will do the job, and if we want to, we can do our trick of holding control and clicking down the line to get our signals one way and the other way. And there we go. We have a nice little junction where trains can merge in one direction. But what about 2 directions? What if we want a proper T-junction? So for a proper T-junction, we're going to have to redesign this. And design is the key word. I would really discourage you from going online, looking at junctions, copying that junction piece of track by piece of track, and just implementing them across your network. Now, by all means, look at examples to get ideas and thoughts and different ways of doing things, but the examples are there, I believe, not for you to copy, but to inspire you with the way to do your own. So, we're going to do that here again, and we're going to do that safety procedure again. We're going to cut off the section of track, so we'll cut it off just over there and over here, and also the new line because we've got trains on there now. And the reason why we cut that off is to try and avoid train crashes. The number one time you get your train crashes is when you're messing around with junctions and signals. So if you cut off your lines, like you see these trains are just sat, not able to get in here. You can do your reconfiguration and then let your trains back into the section, and that should severely reduce those crashes. Okay, let's remove the junction bits that we've got in here so we can start a bit of a fresh and just level this out. There we go. So we need our trains to be able to go one way and the other way. Now, the good way for the trains to be able to get from the sideline to the north is with a big diagonal. And when you're designing your junctions, another good rule is all of the individual parts of the junctions should be at least 1 train length. So here you can see we've got trains that are length of about 3, which means this section of track here needs to be at least 3 in length. And the reason for that is that if you've got a train sat here at the signal waiting to go onto the main line, you don't want the back end of the train stopping other trains from coming into the junction and heading in other directions. You want it to be able to sit on its bit of track without blocking the rest, and that's why each section of a junction, each block in a junction, should be at least a train length. So we've got that here. We've got a train length here for trains that want to turn and head north. If we do the same over here, then we can have trains coming from the south wanting to go onto the sideline. And again, that with a signal would mean that the trains could sit there in that little junction block. But what about these two? Well, there's a couple of different ways to handle this. One nice, neat-ish way of doing it would be to put them under the main line like this, and then have them come up and round so that you can then connect them to the main line. Something like this, okay? Now, this is okay. It will work, okay? You'll be able to have trains coming in from the north using this little loop to go round and under and off to the sideline, and trains coming from the sidelines will be able to go under, round and head down to the south. So this is a working junction, but there's a disadvantage here, and that is that you've got a section of track here that is going to be used for both trains heading south and trains coming from the north, both using that sideline. And ideally you don't want to do that. You want trains to split off before they merge on, and here we've got trains merging on before they split off. Okay, so this would be okay. We haven't done the signals yet, but this would be okay. For the signals on this one, we just apply our same 2 principles. We have signals before the splits, so we've got a split up here, we'll put a signal before it. We've got a split down here, signal before it, and we've got a split here, signal before it, and then signals before the merges. There's a merge, so we've got a merge, merge, and here's a merge, merge, and merge. Signals before the merge. Okay, you don't have to have other signals in the block, but if there is a long section of track like this where you could potentially get 2 or 3 trains, then maybe yes, you might want some extra signals in there. So we've added signals before the splits, we've got signals before the merges. This is a completed junction, but like I said, it's not great. Let's update this and do it in a slightly different way. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a tunnel for one track and a bridge for the other to allow these two parts to be completely separate. So let's go in here. We're going to put a little section going down and under for a tunnel. So we'll pop that in there like that. And the tunnel, we're going to make it probably just turn a corner and head out. Now, one of the things that you're going to look for in junction designs is that your corners within your junction are longer than a train length. Ideally, because that means that your train is less likely to slow down, or it won't slow down at all if your train is going around the corners. And of course you want to keep your speed up. So we'll do a piece of track coming off like this, turning out and heading towards the north, and then we'll connect it up to the main line. And then for the other track, I'm going to use a bridge. I'll start the bridge here and I'll end the bridge about there. Now the reason for that is that then these two can cross over and we can bring our track the other way like so. And now we have something very similar to what we had before, except our split is before the merge on the junction. So we can put our signals in. We've got signals before the merge over there, signal before the split, and yeah, I think a signal before the split. Oh, we're missing a signal here before the merge, and that to me is looking pretty good. Okay, so there we go. This junction satisfies most of our rules. It satisfies the signal rules, it satisfies not crossing the lines over, and also it means that we've got our splits before our joins. So now we can actually let our trains use this junction and they'll be able to go in multiple different ways. And if we fast forward, we can see the trains using this junction in many different directions. And you can see, for the most part, they're only waiting in certain places at certain times. And here we've got a good example of the main line being busy and a train using the junction to come across from the side line onto the main line, but the back of the train is not covering up the junction as well. Okay, so I said that this junction is good and it ticks many of the boxes, but it doesn't tick these diagonals. These diagonals are not good enough here. So maybe we need to make another improvement.
This content is supported by Viewer Plus. With Viewer Plus, you're directly fueling the passion and projects of Master Hellish. Be rewarded with game server access, Viewer Plus Discord channels, double Hellish points, exclusive videos, and more. With various plans to choose from, directly fuel the furnace for more thrilling entertainment. If you enjoy Master Hellish content, consider supporting today.
Here we have a new design for this junction. I've added an extra direction, so this is now a four-way junction, and it follows most of the rules and laws and is nice, quite symmetrical. The industry's got in the way a little bit from making it perfect, but you get the idea. And you can see if I fast forward here that we've got all the trains coming from all the different directions, going in all the directions, and they are all flowing lovely and smoothly with hardly any waiting at all. And if we have a look through the junction and around the junction, like, beginners might be going, oh my goodness, that's crazy, that's mental, I can't do that. And like pro players will be like, I can think of a better way. But it's to demonstrate, isn't it? So we can see here that we have a join in the track, and we've got two signals going into that join. Basic principle. We've got a split in the track, and we've got a signal before the split. A basic principle. We've got a diagonal here with a section, and in that section of the track is longer than a train length. Now we've broken one of the rules here because we've got a join without two signals, but that's fine. They pop them in. There we go. If we have a look over here, we've got a section of track that is long enough for one of the train lengths as well. And for every line, it can go in one of the each possible directions. So if we take this train coming up from down the south, if it wants to turn left and go down the branch line, it can just turn left, go across this diagonal and up down the line. If it wants to go straight on, it can do so through these series of tunnels, up and down and through there. And if it wants to turn right, it can do so by first turning left and then coming off this branch line that goes under this tunnel, through the series of bridges, and around and to the right. And then that is just replicated for each of the directions. So each direction can go in each of the other 3 directions. Now there are another couple of things we need to talk about with the junctions. When you've got more than one junction, you need to leave at least a train length between the two, otherwise you end up with a situation like this, where the second junction is currently occupied by this train, and the train coming from the south is sat waiting to enter the junction. That's fine. If a junction's busy, you want a train to sit and wait. The train's trying to turn right and it can't. But we didn't leave a train length between the 2 junctions, and that means the train coming from the south is blocking the first junction in case any other trains want to try and make a manoeuvre. So if one junction's busy, you end up blocking multiple junctions and you can end up with deadlock like this. So now we have a train length between our 2 junctions, and the train waiting for the second junction is no longer blocking the first junction, allowing other trains to manoeuvre. And the last rule is to leave signals off the exits of your junction for at least a train length. And the reason for that is if you have a junction where the line up ahead is busy for some reason and you have another train coming in, it will enter the junction block because it's free, come up to the signal and stop, therefore blocking the entire junction. So if you remove the signals on the exit, the train will wait in this little area after the junction and not block the junction, and further trains that want to go in that direction will not enter the junction as well. So leave those signals at least a train length away from the exits, which means in this situation we have to remove these signals and these signals to give ourselves enough room on the exits. Right, let's have a quick look at a special example that people seem to, well, some people really like and some people don't. I've cleared out most of the inside of this junction and I'm going to show you how to do a clover leaf. Now first of all, you want your track going through the middle in one direction, and in the other direction you need tunnels or bridges so that your track does not cross, like this. There we go, tunnels or bridges, in this case, tunnels. Then you need your diagonals along the corners like this so that your trains can turn left. So if we look at trains coming in from the south, a train can turn left or it can go straight on. So we can go straight on and left. They're the easy ones when you're driving on the left. When you're driving on the left hand side of the tracks, turning right is more difficult. But the way that we do that is by doing a little weird loop. So after we've gone past the central point, we turn off our track, we go along, and then we start to loop back around onto the inner line. And this loop back is what allows you then to turn right. Now there is a problem with this, okay, and it breaks one of the rules that we were talking about previously, okay. I don't know if any of you would know. Maybe pop it in the comments now if you think you know what that rule is. And I will tell you in just a moment when I have finished building it. Okay, I will tell you. I'll give you just a couple of moments to say in the messages, on the comments, what that rule is. Signals before the split. Okay, and we'll just pop a couple of extra signals in the middle. There is our clover leaf. If I join up the track and I'll let our trains enter the clover leaf, you will see them zooming around the network. This one's facing the wrong way, let's turn it around. Zooming around the junction and going about their business. There we go, fantastic. And that works. But that rule that it breaks is that we have a merge before a split, which means these two sections of track here and here, and also these two sections of track here and here, will be more busy than what they really need to be for a more efficient junction. But some people like the way that the clover leaf looks, and to be honest, I'm one of those people too, although I tend not to use it. You can actually do a half clover leaf to do a three-way junction, and that is what we actually did earlier in the video. So there we go, folks. The principles of junctions and the signals upon them. and the few different types that we've gone through, I hope this has managed to give you some good understanding to go and create some amazing junctions. If you come up with some interesting ones or get stuck, you can always take a screenshot over to my Discord where me or maybe somebody else will help you out. The link to my Discord is at the top and bottom of my website. But that's going to be all from me for now. If you do have any questions, you can also pop them down in the comments along with any thoughts or ideas, and I will see you soon. Thank you very much for watching, take care, and for now, goodbye.